Of all the places Robert Durst wandered, this was not just a fake road, but now the setting of a lingering mystery, California's lost coast. In 1997, a pretty teenager named Karen Mitchell was helping out at her Aunt Annie Casper's shoe store.
I did not ever meet Robert Durst, but my manager, she said she remembered him because he just dressed as a woman.
Karen might well have met Robert Durst, said Aunt Annie. She often helped Eureka's homeless population, people among whom Bob was known to mingle. We can't know for sure, but we do know she was in Bob's neighborhood more than once.
Karen used to go to Trinidad on the bus. I mean, they could have met. It's definitely a possibility.
She liked unusual people. She liked to pick their brain and talk to them.
The day she vanished, Karen left the shoe store to walk to her job at a nearby daycare center, where she'd arranged to have Annie pick her up after work.
And as I came down, I had this weird feeling like something was off.
It was. Karen never made it to work. Her mother, Mary Casper, lived in Los Angeles. No forgetting what that phone call was like.
We drove from Southern California up here, and I remember hanging flyers at the rest stops with my daughter and just being like, this is not happening right now. How could this be? Karen, where are you?
A massive search produced no sign of her, though there was one curious lead. A witness who said he saw a young woman get into a car with an older man on this busy Eureka road. The witness worked with a police artist to produce this, but nothing much came of it, at least not back then. Years passed, and then Matt Birkbeck, who authored a book on Durst called A Deadly Secret, got a tip from some independent investigators also working the case, a possible connection.
There were credit card records that placed Durst in the Eureka area the day that this girl disappeared.
The transaction was just off the coast in Trinidad, maybe 20 minutes or so by car from that spot where the witness saw a girl picked up on the road in Eureka. And then, before the trial in Galveston, Birkbeck heard this.
I have a really good source that was close to the defense team, and I was told that Durst, he was extremely concerned about Karen Mitchell, and was so concerned he thought he was going to get charged.
Durst brought this up on his own with his defense attorney?
Yes, and Dick DeGuerin apparently said to him, Bobby, let's worry about one case at a time.
Not true, said Dick DeGuerin.
I've never had any concern about it.
Did Bob?
No.
But when Durst was arrested in New Orleans, the case was reborn. Eureka Police Chief Andy Mills.
Robert Durst is a person of interest in this case.
He's definitely in the mix.
He is in the mix. Someone that we will consider as part of our larger investigation.
The chief is not alone. The FBI and Humboldt County DA are investigating a possible Bob Durst connection too. However, Durst is not the only person of interest. There are 5 others. So for now, the chief advises caution.
The evidence, the circumstantial evidence, is just not there at this point.
That old composite sketch, for example, could this be Robert Durst? The chief isn't quite sure it's particularly accurate.
Looks very similar.
Were you impressed by the similarities?
I'm impressed by the similarities, but my questions are being able to recognize somebody in a very small space and window, and then being able to recount that in a description that's pretty precise.
That sketch? Ridiculous, said Durst's attorney, Dick DeGuerin.
I know Bob pretty well. That doesn't look anything like it. It looks like Mr. Potato Head.
So, who was that witness of 18 years ago? Would he still remember? The cops haven't spoken to him recently, so we found him, riding his tractor in the green hills above Eureka. His name is Randy Gomes, an Army vet and local carpenter. Did he remember?
I looked right at him because I was yelling at him.
Yelling at him because that guy cut him off when he stopped his car to pick up a teenage girl.
You know, and I eyeballed him all the way around as I was coming around the car.
Gomes insisted the girl got into the car willingly, as if she knew the man. So now, 18 years later, we showed Gomes his sketch and a picture of Robert Durst.
What is your gut reaction when you see those two photographs together?
I believe that's the man that I saw.
So how sure are you got it right?
I'm positive. In my heart, I know I have it right.
And Gomes is fairly certain he said the girl who got in the car looked like a photo the police showed him of Karen Mitchell.
But it was her because we made eye contact.
But issues. There's no proof that it was Karen Mitchell who got into the car. And Bob Durst's eyes are not blue. And, said Chief Mills, Gomes didn't come forward till months after the incident.
What we don't want to do is just take something that's, sensational and plug that person into the midst of an investigation that may or may not have anything to do with him.
But the investigation continues. And some, like Burt Beck, believe there may be more.
I've never said definitively that he was a serial killer. What I said was that there's so much out there about him that clearly there's something going on here, and that law enforcement needs to look into it. And thankfully, they are doing it now.
Waste of time, said Dick DeGuerin.
Well, there's no evidence. To think, they have to have a theory that he's some kind of serial killer. He's not a serial killer.
But the notion of Robert Durst as a serial killer has come up. A guy who
Well, it sells magazines, it sells books, it causes people to turn on their TVs.
A long missing wife, a dismembered neighbor, a murdered friend. This is how Robert Durst is defined now. Where did it all go wrong? All that power, privilege, money. 60 years ago, a doctor warned that Bob's hostility issues could lead to personality decomposition. Is that what happened? To his friends, Emily and Stuart Altman, Bobby Durst was a good person and loyal friend for more than 40 years. Stuart, an attorney who has represented Bob in the past, has rejoined his legal team. And Emily, painful as it is, worries that Bobby Durst may be the friend she never knew after all.
You're prepared?
No.
Not prepared to deal with that?
He's my friend. I can't understand harming a human being, okay? Doesn't make sense to me.
I don't know if I could forgive that, and I wish I could, and I'm struggling with that. I don't know. That's it. I don't know.
That's all for